makes the whole thing feel a little bit less legit. It just screams like this isn't that real, which is like a ridiculously small detail, but like my eyes went there so quick. A mistake that I see people making a lot is, so just kind of moving top to bottom. I really like the graphic on the left. Like I thought it was kind of unique. It caught my eye. Even like the size, like the amount of just like that initial composition that's taken up, it felt nice. I was a little bit kind of confused, like how the loading animation was set up. And so then I like went into inspect element and realized the entire thing's an image. And that was a little bit of a red flag, where that is not actually text. And so that kind of threw me off. Yeah, because I was like, how the heck did they get, like, I thought that they were doing like a mask, like a reveal mask. I was like, man, that's like really complex. And then I realized it's just
it's animation.
Yeah. The like moving down from there, one thing that I really liked was the layout, like the text layout in each individual like work section. I thought it was pretty cool. Like it would have been very easy to vertically align all of the text and maybe do like a 2-panel approach. I thought this was more unique for sure. Like that was probably my favorite part about the whole site actually, is just like the way that the content is grouped. I kind of felt, maybe even backing up a second, like I kind of felt like there needed to be some, it just dropped me into that first project, right? Like there wasn't a segue, there wasn't like an introduction to it. I don't know exactly what that would have been, but it felt like a little bit of a missed opportunity. And I guess then getting into like the mock-ups, this is maybe a personal preference. It is. Pet peeve of mine is like there's like 4 or 5 like avatar mock-ups that are just overused in my opinion. And I think like
Wiz Lady is really famous.
Like it just screams like this isn't that real.
And
you know,
Splash.
like I would never use this avatar because it just makes the whole thing feel a little bit less legit. So unfortunately, that was one of the things that jumped out.
All designers know this lady. She's so famous.
She is so you could put her on a shirt.
Recognize her? Give me a Figma shirt at that point, or Unsplash. Just one of the two.
Yeah. I'll say 2 more comments about the top mock-up, and then maybe I'll pass it off to see if you have any other thoughts. But like, one is it's a very simplistic layout, like it's very minimal, which I like. And again, I mentioned like the content arrangement that I thought was really cool. To me, that screams like you could really make a more exciting button, even if it is a text button. Like I kind of wanted some kind of a even just a hover state would have went a long way. I think like I immediately was like, oh, what's this gonna do? And then it didn't do anything, and I was kind of like, okay. And then the only other thing and this is more getting into like the mock-ups, but there's a few places in here where the shadows feel pretty harsh. And that was like one of the first things that jumped out to me on this. In addition to, I'm supposed to believe this is one cohesive app, but there's like some really, really different border radius themes going on in this first one too. Like where like my eyes just immediately went to like the inputs and how like big and boxy they were, but then the tab bar is like rounded and that purple container is rounded, and it felt like kind of a weird juxtaposition, which is like a ridiculously small detail, but like my eyes went there so quick. So those are some of the initial thoughts.
I totally hear you on that. I mean, it's super easy to look into that stuff, like if things don't look quite right, and even from the homepage you know what you're going to be getting into later, where you're going to be very critical. And so those are like really important things to be thinking about in general, obviously with your visual design, but then also with the layout of your portfolio. It's both. Like I think what I was hearing and what I completely agree with is like this doesn't look as polished as I feel like it should, as far as like the final visual design. It looks a little bit dated, and there's not as consistent as it should be. And we're going to get into that. Probably it'll be the project that we pick, and so we'll get into that in more detail. Was there any other thoughts that you had about the homepage?
One other big one is I think that all of the text animations are happening a little bit too slow. Like I was getting into the section, and then I kind of had to just wait for the text. And you feel that in the description text, and you feel that in the footer as well, where I think like it's probably tied to like scroll position. So whatever that scroll into view is, like I would just remove any delay, any like scroll position. And I think that would have made the whole thing feel a lot snappier. Like I felt like I couldn't quite scroll as quickly as I wanted to.
Yeah.
Totally fair. So with that in mind, what would you give this on the 1 to 5? You can be brutally honest. That's a different part.
Man, this is so hard. I'm no decimals, huh?
You could,
If you want to go there, sure.
I'm gonna go with 2.5. We're gonna
Okay,
go with 2.5.
so like
Alright,
a med to good, somewhere between
med
med
to
to
good,
good.
yeah.
A med good. Okay, cool.
Nugget.
Yeah, the
good.
thing that I want to call out, like 100% with you on the image, like I wasn't even paying attention to that because I thought I agree with you on the image. I thought that was like is unique. You don't see that very often. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Totally agree with you on the image. The fact that the entire thing's an image is a red flag, but the other part of that, which you brought up, and I wanted to just reiterate, was the fact that there's no story about who this person is or what they want to do or what they care about or anything they're focused on. And so because of that, it was just, it's like, hi, I'm this person, I'm in Texas. Like, first of all, I don't think this matters on a portfolio like that. You can bring up in your about
It matters
page.
if you're from Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But like, just when I see that a lot in portfolios, people are like, hey, I'm this person and I'm from this place. That's like, that's fine on your about page. But like, let's talk more about like what you specialize in potentially, or what you care about, like what you want to design.
Great point.
Things like that. Like it just feels very bland. And so like, this was interesting. And then it's like very bland. And then the other piece I was going to say is like, I think leading with the name of the thing you're working on is fine. But I always believe that the title of this should be what the project was / what the impact was, like what you were trying to solve for, and then make this the tag. I like the style of it, how simple it was, but like what you're doing is you're forcing me to read this to understand potentially what you did versus like actually understand the entire premise, who it's for, and then maybe a small little like bit about it. So I would give it a meta good too, somewhere in there.
Meta good.
Yeah. We're just
Somewhere.
playing it safe.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like that was something that I wrote down that I forgot to bring up. Is just like the leading with just like hello as the big text felt a little like it was fine, but it felt like a little bit of a missed opportunity where it's like, what actually do you want me to take away from this hero section? And I didn't really take much away.
Right. What makes you unique, right? What makes Joshua and not anyone else? Right now, we don't get it, right? He's just like any other thousands of designers out there, just that he's from Texas. So now maybe a few hundreds of them. That's about it. That is only uniqueness, right? So like Joshua, like what are you good at, right? We want to see that. Like what kind of product designer are you? Do you have a specialty in the UX process that you specialize in? Maybe it's visual design, maybe it's prototyping, and we want to see that, right? What kind of companies you specialize in? Like maybe it's the travel industry, maybe it's something else, right? Like what are the niches that you occupy and what makes you unique? We don't see that. The cool thing about the image though that I was noticing is that the circle, the triangle, and the squares are actually reused for each of the projects below, and that's kind of a cool way to keep consistency going. The only thing is that the circles and triangle and so on and so forth, as soon as you bring the screen down, they become gigantic. If you just make the screen smaller, you'll see
my God.
Circle becomes gigantic.
We got an awkward breakpoint here.
Some breakpoints.
So I would say, please take care of that, Joshua, because that circle looks fine on desktop, but not on smaller screen sizes.
It also feels like there's got to be some story to this image, right? Like it's really cool. What is it? And even trying to figure out like how to make this page unique.
Yeah.
I think even just communicating why this thing is here and why it is meaningful to you could be like a fun little motif to lean into. Like even if you took those shapes and maybe even added like a little bit more of an about section, like why should you care about me, Joshua, and maybe bringing those in somehow, that could be a fun angle to explore.
Totally. Absolutely agree. So Ludovic, what's your rating?
I mean, I think I'll go with, I'll keep it consistent. It's just between a man and a good. I'm like, it's good. But it's like, it's man. It's like, I can't decide. It's just like right in between. I feel like you don't need much to get to a good. Say like, just change your hero sentence. Don't make it an image. Make it actual text. Tell us what makes you unique. Instead of talking about just what Heirloom is, tell us like what you did in that project. Bring out some of that metadata that we can glance at very quickly. Clean up those UI screens because, like at a glance, hiring managers can see like, that's a little green. And if you do that, then you can actually go from good to solid potentially. So
Yeah, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we're gonna move on to our first palate cleanser. So first of all, I forgot to ask you earlier, what is your beverage that you brought today?
Yeah, so I typically try to get a sour beer. I love sours, and they didn't have any at the store. So I was like, I tried to come up with the closest possible one. It's a fruit ale from Shorts Brewing, which I don't normally do, but it's 7.5%, which was like really odd to me. I was like, I've never even heard of a fruit ale like that. And it had a bunch of sour fruits in it. So I was like, I think this is probably gonna be the closest thing that I can get. And it's actually pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, you love to hear it. It's kind of a springy beverage, it sounds like. Which, yeah, you know. What do you have?
On all the stouts and everything. I kind of always go for summertime.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too.
Well, I have some red wine because I'm French and you cannot go a day without red wine, right? So obviously, no, usually, French people always drink, just a little bit of wine all the time. Not a lot in just a short amount of time, but just a little bit every day, for lunch or dinner. And I had a bottle in the fridge. I was like, perfect. Let's open it again.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm having a guava cider, which I'd never had before. It's pretty good. I like it. It's very. I wouldn't say it's tropical, even though guava is very tropical. But it's tasty. So
nice.
Sweet to dryness. Like, where does it fall?
Definitely on the sweeter side. Not like super sweet though. I'm not a fan of super sweet ciders. Like I'm gluten free, not by choice, and so I have to stick with ciders. And so for me, I definitely like the dry stuff.
Me too. I love a dry cider.
Yeah, me too. It's so good. Okay, but actually, for the question that we really wanted to ask you during this section, what advice would you give to someone on their portfolio if you did not want them to get a job?
I'll drill into a specific portfolio project, and a mistake that I see people making a lot is you don't give me a taste of where we're going up front. And so like if the first 3 images that I see in a portfolio project are like that same whiteboard with a bunch of stickies and a bunch of like flowcharts that are so small that I can't even really read them, and I have no idea actually like where we are headed with this, I lose interest really quickly. And so I like to think about it as like almost like a recipe video. Like, give me just like the little taste, show me the like 3-second glimpse of like the pie coming out of the oven, and then I'm happy to look at all your like flour, like rolling dough and everything, like, because I know where we're going and I can get excited about it. But if it's too long before you give me this glimpse, I'll just lose interest and I'll start scrolling faster and faster and faster. And so I see a lot of people like put a bunch of work into this project, but you didn't hook me. And you gotta like, you're competing for my attention just like anything else. So.
Yeah, it's like making a YouTube video, right? Like you have to like almost show the end at the beginning to get people to be like, oh my god, this is what we're gonna get to, and then you go through the story of getting there. It's 100% about that. I love that. That's really great.